Hello everyone, my name is Achyutha, and this video will be a brief introduction to AP Psychology. What is psychology? Psychology is the study of the mind and behavior. Psychology includes the study of conscious and unconscious phenomena, as well as feelings and thoughts. It can also be described as the study of behavior and mental processes. It is a relatively new science that seeks to discover how we think, act, and feel. There are four primary goals of psychology: to describe, to explain, to predict, and to control. You may ask yourself, why is psychology important? Psychology is important because it helps us to understand ourselves and others. This understanding helps us to better structure ourselves and improve the lives of all people. From discerning and treating psychological illnesses to structuring the workplace, all the way down to analyzing how every person grows up to become a fully functioning adult. All this knowledge is garnered through our understanding of the human psyche. Now that we have a general understanding of what psychology is and why it's important, we can turn to its roots. The rest of this video will focus on the beginnings and history of psychology, important psychologists, and perspectives that have risen to prominence throughout the years. The beginnings of psychology. William Wundt, also known as the father of psychology, was the first psychologist. He built the first psychological laboratory in Leipzig, Germany, in 1879. His student, Edward Titchener, came up with the first psychological perspective, structuralism. This perspective dealt with wanting to understand the structure of thought and sought to understand the human brain and understand how the pieces of the mind work together to operate. The next important psychologist to know is William James. He is the father of American psychology, and he's the first person to teach a psychology course in the United States. In addition to this, he also created the first psychology textbook, called The Principles of Psychology. The school of thought that William James created is called functionalism. It deals with what function thoughts have and why humans think. Side note: William James's first student was Mary Calkins, who later became the first female president of the American Psychological Association, also known as the APA. The timeline of perspectives. These are the major perspectives of psychology, each with a brief description and names of important psychologists. The psychodynamic perspective. The psychodynamic perspective focused on the subconscious mind and how childhood shapes the rest of our lives. Some of the main psychologists who used this perspective were Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. The behavioral perspective. The behavioral perspective dealt with how people are conditioned to act and how we respond to certain stimuli. It also deals with how we learn and operate due to how we are motivated. Behavioral psychologists include Ivan Pavlov and John B. Watson. The humanistic perspective. The humanistic perspective deals with the needs and desires of humans. It also focuses on the fulfillment of people and their mental growth. Some of the psychologists from this perspective were Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow. The cognitive perspective. The cognitive perspective dealt with how we process information and how we receive and store memories, perception, and attention. One of the psychologists from this perspective is Jean Piaget. The biological perspective. The biological perspective deals with the chemistry of the brain and body, how genetics affect a person, and how they live. It also tries to relate evolution to psychological principles. E.O. Wilson was one of the more famous and influential psychologists from the biological perspective. Sociocultural. This perspective focused on how our environment affects how we behave. A psychologist from this perspective is Lev Vygotsky. The eclectic perspective. This perspective takes some combination of the previous perspectives and combines their ideologies. This is able to see a problem from multiple perspectives and is then able to find an approach to best suit the problem's needs. This is the most recently developed perspective, and it is used by most modern psychologists. Clarifications. The psychodynamic perspective is a word that is used to describe both Freud and his followers, such as Carl Jung and Alfred Adler. Sigmund Freud himself believed in the psychoanalytic perspective, which was both a theory and a therapy that he alone created. While the psychodynamic theory was the first perspective to be created, the cognitive perspective has its roots in Gestalt psychology, which was founded by Max Wertheimer. This technically makes the cognitive perspective the first perspective. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it's been informative, and if you have any questions, comment them down below. Please like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thank you.